أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. As we get to the end of this Ijtema, this blessed Ijtema, I would like to share with you how it started. The first few slides I want to go through fast, and then I want to focus on today's Ijtema. On 4th of January, I went to meet Hazrat Khalifatul Masih when I was saddled with this heavy responsibility, and I asked Hazur a simple question: Hazur, what is your vision for Majlis Ansarullah USA? We understand what Sabil Rashad says. And Hazur didn't take a second. Hazur very quickly said, this verse, which is right behind us, this is the goal, the vision, the focus that I want Majlis Ansarullah to focus on. Don't think right and left, you guys have these grandiose ideas about other people. Go fix yourself and fix your own home. Those were essentially the remarks of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih. We revamped our educational materials. We created a whole new handbook. And as many of you who've done these exercises, they're all around personal development, but we didn't want to leave it there. We want to have a measurable response, because if people don't come and don't read it, then we're kidding ourselves. So we came up with this target that we must cross 1,000 members when you count all people, every attendance in every majlis in a month. So previously in 2012, around 620 people were attending meetings. In 2013, about 664. This year, the average is now nearly 840, but by the grace of Allah, in September, we crossed that 1,000 mark, that this is the vision of our Khalifa, we must rally behind it. And then the second thing, I asked Hazur, what is the motto? What do you think that there has to be a slogan for every organization? And Hazur smiled. Hazur said, Nahnu Ansarullah, aren't you the helpers of Allah? You know, many of these questions, Sahaba also knew, but they would say, Allah and Allah's Prophet knows better. So even when we know these things, it sounds really good to hear them from your Khalifa. So then, what good is a slogan if we don't act upon it? We came back and started this free health service for all members, not just Ansar, Lajna, Khudam, non-Ahmadis, non-Muslims, atheists, anybody who wanted help. Here is a number, and by the grace of Allah, you can't see that, but there's 600 members that we have done blood work for this year, and about 50 phone calls that come in, and people get their help from physicians and then their dental services. So we are trying to promote this service. We are helpers of Allah. The second thing, very quickly, I wanted to acknowledge the Taaleem tests, because they did a huge rally, and you can see that this year we've also crossed 1,000 there. Continuing on the theme of helpers of Allah, we offer these Tahir scholarships so people can improve their job prospects. Because I asked Hazur, we have an influx of immigrants and some of these members who really are struggling. What should we do? And Hazur kept on saying, jobs, jobs, jobs. Get them jobs. So by the grace of Allah, Tahir scholarship, typically we would get 2 to 3. Munawwar Saqib Sahib here somewhere? Just wanted to make sure. Typically 2 to 3 applicants a year, and this year, is it 7 now? 7. So by the grace of Allah and His work and His team's work, we have doubled that number, and we continue to pour more. You know, we are saying we will continue to rise it. Inshallah, if brotherhood and we have our unity, money will follow. Don't worry about the money. People have to be deserving. We're not going to just waste this money, but we want to make sure that it goes to good use. Networking directory, we had nearly 300 entries. If the Khar Sheikh Sahib here somewhere, very quickly. Have we made any progress? Little bit. Okay, so inshallah, he's working on it. We will make sure that we will connect people with each other so we can put those who can give a job with those who need a job. And then very quickly, we asked Huzur, Huzur just jokingly picked up a big magazine. It was from USA, and Huzur said, nobody reads these thick magazines that you guys publish. Give members small, bite-sized information so they can remember. So that is why we have quick communications. We started Ansar Connection. It gets, by the grace of Allah, Rishad department is doing wonderfully. The open rate, and then we monitor how many people open it, who reads it. Nearly 1,1700. Rafi Malik Saab somewhere here? I was not planning on calling your names. I'm just thinking right now because the data, and I just want to make sure that I don't give wrong numbers. But about 1,500 people open it. More than 1,000 to 1,500. So, and that is why we also revamped our website so people can make sure that they get quick communication. So why is everything working? It seems like things are working. But I have to say, it is because your Zoma and your Nazimeen, people that you elected, they didn't want this job. It's very important. We're ruthless people sometimes. We put somebody in a job and then we, pull the ladder from underneath that person. Those Zoma, they did not want to be elected. Those Nazimeen, but we elected them, and they're the ones who believed in this. They believe. This is what Holy Quran says. The believers are only those who truly believe in Allah and His Messenger, and then doubt not. These people did not doubt. We kept on pushing. These numbers were hard. They kept on pushing. But they strive with their possessions and their persons in the cause of Allah. Hard work, there is no excuse for that. Prayer and hard work, this is a longer conversation, but I think there is ample evidence in the history of Islam and Ahmadiyyat. We can't confuse between those two. They have to go in tandem, and that is why, by the grace of Allah, the success has come. I always say, I'm very afraid of this we should paradigm. We stand on the mic and we say, we should, we should. This is how we should looks. If I were to give you a visual of how we should look, if I were to put imagine every arrow is a person. When we say we should, this is the visual. There is an inherent arrogance in these arrows. I'm not saying in you, because you, by the grace of Allah, you have uplifted me like you have no idea. When I look at those arrows, they all look arrogant to me. They're going in there. There is a top arrow. That is the Khalifatul Masih, where he wants to take us. I have my own opinion. I know better. That is where the arrow starts moving. And you know what? All of these arrows, they have a very good one-liner to support their cause. They've memorized certain verses and quotations. They will not come across as they're disobedient. But you know what, Zaim Saab, you don't know. I know better. This is the we should paradigm. If you ask me, what is our biggest challenge today in Majlis Ansarullah? It's not money. Allah Ta'ala has blessed you. It's not health. Amir Saab just made an observation that people were running to get their awards. By the grace of Allah, you're nafiyun nas wujud, as the Masih al-Islam says. It's not health. Our biggest challenge, at least my 10 months of assessment, is this. We should. I know better. No, I'm not going to listen. I'm still going to do, I'm protocol driven. Certain things, you just didn't cater to my needs. That somebody said, shortly put, ego. That is our biggest challenge today. Where do we go from there? I will. This is the visual of I will. I will does not mean that everybody is an Abu Bakr Siddiq. All these arrows are not but it means that they're trying, that they're working. It's hard for that arrow on the side, but he's tilted inside now. And you all know what I mean. You all know that is true obedience, but it's hard. When you absolutely don't want to do it, but you say, I will, because my Khalifa said. I will, because my Nazim said. I will, because my Zaim said. I know he's a young kid. I know, I remember when he was running around, but today he's my Zaim. I will. That is what makes you a man of God. You have no idea the inspiration it gives that Zain. You have no idea the power, how it scares the non-Ahmadi Muslims. This is an organization, I will. This is the paradigm. So the story of Ijtema. Over the past 8 years, that's our historic attendance. Every year to me was a miracle, not just 2014. Every year has its own realities. I have no doubt that in 2005, those 300 members were just as good as whatever we are going to end up today. Everybody, no soul shall bear the burden of another soul. So I don't give you this comparison as belittling something. To me, this is us. This is our history. Every year, these men of God, it's this foundation that helped us come to where we are today. So quickly, the story of Ijtema. In ALC, many of you were there. That's where I want to spend 2 or 3 or 5 minutes. So we talked about National Ijtema coming our first priority. Those of you who were there, there was a paper like this. I split it into little slips and like parchiyan, and I gave it to every Zaim, remember? And after a very passionate session, I said, give me your best number. Forget about the 1,000, remember that? Don't worry about the number. Give me your best number of your majlis, fold it and give it back to me. This happened, I think, on a Saturday. I looked at those numbers that night, I counted them. So that was, there was a manager deep down, right, trying to maneuver things. And next morning at breakfast, Amir Sahib, I was asking the people, I was quizzing them, what do you think was the total? And some members said 1,400. Some said 1,600, some said 1,200. And my heart was sinking because those numbers were not right. So I asked them, I said, what makes you say these big numbers? They said, you gave us a passionate speech, and I think we all believe that we overshot. Now we are regretting, we gave you a pretty big number. So you kind of just cornered us. That number was 846. If you remember that. So on Sunday I told everyone that after all our passion, if it comes to 846, now if we get 1,000, would you believe that it was only Allah and nothing else? يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. That is, Hazrat Muslim Maud says, the first step of belief. The first step of taqwa is believe in the unseen. Because any Tom, Dick, Harry can look at a cow and say it's a cow. But when there is no cow and someone tells you there will be a cow, believe in the unseen. So we all agreed that yes, 846 despite all our efforts. A Nazim told me that I think a week or a month ago he got a call from 2 brothers. They said, Nazim Sahib, we are at Baitur Rahman, there's no one here. Where are the 1,000 people for Ijtema? These people confused the date. These 2 brothers showed up a month early. Is Rahim Latif Sahib here? Was it a month or a week? A month, right? It was September. They showed up around the 10th of September, and they're complaining, where is everyone? This was the belief. That's the level of belief. Can you imagine that? A brother called me who's fighting pretty advanced liver cancer and said, Sadr Sahib, I want to come to the Ijtema. I couldn't believe my ears. That was the level of belief. That brother is here today. But then we got closer to the Ijtema. And the cell phones and emails started going crazy that it's going to rain. Every prediction was it's going to rain. I have pictures of prediction on Thursday, rain on Friday, rain on Saturday, rain on Sunday. So on Thursday evening, I wrote a letter to Hazrat Khalifatul Masih, Azur, where else we're going to go? Yuminuna bil ghaib. If you want to become men of God, you're going to go to God's man. That's the simple equation. Where else we're going to turn to? So I wrote a letter, and I took a picture from my camera of that 3-day forecast because I knew there is a miracle in this. I sent out an email to many of you, to Zoma, and I said, either there's going to be a miracle or there's going to be a trial. We'll be happy both ways. But I said in the end, I'd rather get a miracle out of it. Yesterday, within 12 hours, the rain stopped. And this morning, when the sun was shining, I took a picture of Baitur Rahman with sun shining, and I tweeted that they said it will rain through the weekend, and we said we will call our Khalifa, and we won. So then, that storm was barely settling, and last night and this morning, many of you asked, some of you came to me and they said, the attendance is 1,400. We've crossed 1,000, no question. Somebody else said it's nearly 1,500. I don't believe it. We were stuck at 920. At Fajr this morning, we were stuck. So what would you all men of God do? You would go back to God's man on earth. So wrote another letter this morning. And those were the words, Hazur, last day of Ijtema, hours to go, Hazri 920 pe aakar ruk gayi hai. The attendance is stuck at 920. But prayers and strive with your possessions, that is what the verse says. That is what the verse, I just want to make sure that you remember what I'm saying. Doubt not, none of these people doubted, but strive with their possessions and their persons in the cause of Allah. There are people in this audience that I reached out to. I said, pray and do something. And a new storm started erupting since this morning, since 7 a.m. You have no idea of the storm that you know and many of you know that you have generated. And when we moved from we should to I will, in 5 hours from 920, this is where we ended. Zindabad. 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 But success has its own risks. You can become cocky, you can become arrogant. I've been questioning my intentions the day from ALC. Are you trying to be pretentious? Is there raya in this? Is there some ego? Is it about you? It's very delicate, it's very dangerous. It gets to your head. So becoming men of God is a huge responsibility. It's a huge responsibility. You better never let it get to our heads. Our worth is not more than that of a dead earthworm if it's not for Allah. That is our worth, and that is where we belong. And then it's Allah's hand. But that is a risk we always have to remain mindful, that it should never, ever get to our head. And what better way to make sure it gets out of our head than to again start thinking outwards, towards those people who make all these successes, all those people that again shine an attribute of Allah Ta'ala. So I have to go through this list, because this gratitude to me, everything that we are here today, I will start with Dr. Wajib Bajwa Sahab, our Sadr Ansarullah for 8 years. The first message I sent, I told you guys, we're not going to change. We're going to build. Our job is to build on the foundations of our predecessors. So he deserves enormous amount of thanks. He couldn't make it because he was invited to Italy for that, I think to the Nobel Prize ceremony. And he still sought my permission. He said, if you allow, I would like to go there. Amazing man. Remember him in your prayers for all the years of service. I want to say gratitude to my Majlis Amla. You guys never doubted. I want to say gratitude to all the Nazimeen. None of you, I did not give you a target for your attendance. You picked your targets yourself. You beat it right and left. May Allah Ta'ala accept all your prayers. I want to give gratitude to all the Zoma. I have to be honest, some of you believed more, others believed less, but that is the nature of belief. Holy Quran says there are animals that walk on 2 feet and then there are on 4 feet. There's some who walk and there's some who run. May Allah Ta'ala continue to increase us in our belief of the unseen, but I want to recognize each and every Zaim who worked hard. I want to recognize our National Jamaat, Amla Memberan, our Amir Sahab, Naib Umara, our Murabbiyan. It is extremely inspiring to see you here. You have no idea what it does to us. It is extremely inspiring to serve you, to see you with a cup of tea and not have to worry about running the show. We want to serve you. We felt great. Jazakumullah for coming. And I want to thank each and every one of you. Many of you had to catch flights early. Many of you had things to do. Without you, this tent does not mean anything. When you come here, you bring the fragrance of Rabwa with you. That is what makes it an Ijtema, and I want to thank all of you for that. I want to thank the team of transportation. When we were sleeping at 2 a.m., these people were picking up guests from the airports. I want to thank the accommodation team. I want to thank the Ziyafat team. I want to thank the sports team and those who worked on the stage and the backdrops. Each and every one of you in administration, sirran wa alaniyatan, whether you were hidden or you were out in public. Allah saw that. If we didn't see it, Allah saw it. That's even better. I want to thank those who brought these flowers out there, and nobody knows where they came from. And talk of Ikrama. In the beginning, we talked about this story of 3 men passing the glass of water. A very senior member who I know, allow me just 2 or 3 minutes, I will end very quickly. A very senior member, a man of God that I would believe in my heart, came to me and said, Sadr Sahab, you must say thank you to that man. He really helped me. I said, okay, I will do that. An hour or 2 later, he comes back to me and says, you must say thank you to that man. And I knew in my heart what's going to happen next. Okay, all right, well, you're pushing me. So I went ahead and said thank you to that other gentleman. That gentleman said, Sadr Sahab, I didn't do anything. It was not my work. It was somebody. I said, do you know what you guys are right now doing? You're passing that glass of water. You're saying, no, I don't need it. It's my brother's. No, I don't need it. Give it to the other person. This is the transformation that Majlis Ansarullah is creating. By the grace of Allah, I want to thank the audio-video team. We flipped the script on you yesterday, and you did just fine. It was beautiful, one of the most beautiful mishaps that I've seen when Mujibur Rahman Sahab was here in Sadr Sahab, Canada. Each and every one of you in registration team, when I woke you up at 1 a.m. last night. And then I have to name, not that it's any different, but Abdul Hadi Ahmad, our Muawin Sadr and the Nazim of this Ijtema. May Allah Ta'ala accept all your visible and your hidden sacrifices. And this is my last slide. We have work to do. We cannot stay in we should. The time for I will has been knocking on our doors for years. And alhamdulillah, you have been doing it. I'm not saying you started it today, but maintain that. But from I will, a stage will come of I did. And this is how that Jamaat is going to look. That's going to be in locksteps with Khalifatul Masih. That Jamaat is not going to question anything. That Majlis Ansarullah is going to look at what a Nazim says and they're going to everything over. In that Majlis Ansarullah, when some opinionated person is talking in 3 people and making fun of a Zaim, those 3 people are going to walk away from that person and pray for him. They're not going to be scornful, but they're not going to allow that kind of dissent. And that is the Jamaat that is going to say, in the obedience of Khilafat, in the respect for Zohma and the Nazimeen. If you want one message, it is very easy to do Khalifatul Masih. It's very easy to understand that. But Hazur's message said, you must be obedient to Khilafat and Nizam-e Jamaat. If I'm not obedient to my Amir, I'm kidding myself that I'm obedient to my Khalifa. I'm kidding myself. So this, my humble message to you is, once we get there, that's how that picture is going to look. And then, yes, we will all be old people. We'll be sitting with our children, our grandchildren. We'll say, I did. Now you go and do it. जज़ाकुमुल्लाह।
प्लेज करना है
एंड में pledge करना है।
एंड पे
Majlis Ansarullah USA.
जिंदाबाद
Majlis Ansarullah USA.
जिंदाबाद
Majlis Ansarullah USA.
जिंदाबाद
Khalifatul Masih Al-Hamid.
जिंदाबाद